The views and opinions expressed on the following program are those of the host and guests and do not necessarily reflect the policy or position of ONTV's management, staff, or board of directors.
Captain Carnage, Dr. Tweed, The Mask, Miss Linda and Adrian Street, the Human Bomb Shelter, Jake the Snake, ask Mad Dog DeCurso if it's real or fake. Golden Greek told us the giant goon Dickoff, El Toro, the Grunt Brothers too. The Wild Samoans got something crazy going. They're gonna be going after you. Wrestling tonight. Everything is bigger than life. Wrestling tonight. Rock and roll and wrestling tonight.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Wrestling Tonight. I am your hardcore host, humble hardcore host,
Yeah,
Mad Dog
can't
Butch.
forget humble.
Joining me, as always, the Thrasher to my mosh,
Sweet 90s.
none other than Brace Beemer. And today, we are going to be talking to someone that we knew when we were younger, and somebody that actually wrestled with us at one point, and went on to have a pretty big wrestling career in the local scene around Michigan.
Heck yeah.
And without further ado, it is none other than Steve Nixon.
I'm still hearing the Wrestling Tonight song, too. There
Now
we
it's
go.
up. Steve,
Hi.
how are you?
Good, good. Thank you for having me.
We really appreciate you joining us. I think we tried months ago to have you on, but then all the stuff happened, so
Yeah.
obviously we didn't get a chance to do that. But let's get right into it. One of the very first things that we always ask people is, well, first of all, where are you now?
I'm currently in North Dakota.
Okay.
I've lived here for about 6.5 years.
Okay.
Huh.
So the very first thing that we normally ask when we have a special guest is what were your first memories of professional wrestling? Is there a match or a wrestler I'll just ask you about a match first. Is there a specific match that stuck out that you remember watching first?
Yeah. Really, I kind of started watching very, very little in 1986. Not too much, because my then stepbrother or future stepbrother at that time would have it on the weekends. I really didn't pay that much attention to it. It wasn't until the New Year's 1987 Saturday Night's Main Event show with, I don't know if you recall, the Hulk Hogan, Paul Orndorff steel cage match where they both
Yes.
go out at the same time.
Yep.
It was that match that really, for some reason, just kind of transformed it.
Okay.
And it was something that kind of just built over the next several weeks and months and eventually years into what really kind of became like this love affair.
Okay.
So
Yeah. Now, were you so at that time? Did you kind of start off exclusively as a WWF fan, or were you watching NWA and just trying to sort of watch as much as you could?
I did. The only thing I knew about was the WWF. I didn't really know a whole lot. It was in school, actually. I was in middle school at that time. And it was during my middle school years, I befriended a guy by the name of John Marks, who would go on to become John Pee Wee Moore for ECW.
Yep.
So the first couple years, we started off 87, 88. We would be in the same class or whatever. And we'd talk about wrestling, and he'd talk about the NWA, and then I would switch to the NWA and that kind of stuff. Yeah. And so that's really, it started initially as WWF, but then eventually NWA.
You're a good man.
So I have a feeling that I know who this is, but I'm going to ask you, who was your favorite wrestler at that time? Like let's say the first 5 years that you're watching wrestling.
Well, the first year was Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
But I would say by 1988, it was Ric Flair who I became crazy about.
Nice.
I just knew he was just the best of all time. He was the best I'd ever seen. He was the true world champion to me. And yeah, by 1988, I was such a total Ric Flair fan. And I just, Hulk, I didn't dislike Hulk, but, it was like I was kind of getting bored with Hulk.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I totally understand that. Yeah, I was kind of the same way. I think he was too, where like when you're in school, everybody's talking about WWF, but then you start watching the other things. And it wasn't very long before I turned on Hogan myself and started rooting for Piper. I mean, that was almost right off the bat. But I remember the first house show I went to, probably 1985. I bought a Roddy Piper shirt there, so I was already anti-Hulk at that point. But yeah, I figured you were going to say Flair because when we met you, it seemed like you were kind of modeling yourself after Rick. Even some of the just a lot of the mannerisms and stuff. You did a lot of chops, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But so how did eventually when we met you, but going back before we met you, you and John Moore,
Pee Wee Moore, yeah.
Okay, start wrestling in your own backyard league in Troy or no?
Yeah, it was in Troy. It was actually in the basement. We didn't do a backyard thing. We wanted to do in the basement so we could do it all year round.
Okay.
And we had some giant mattresses. I don't know. I can't remember. It was about maybe 2 double mattresses and a couple of single mattresses. And we put them together and make one big square. And we basically created a little wrestling league in my basement.
Okay.
Cool. How many did you have in that thing? Were there more than? I mean, obviously more than you and Pee Wee, but
yeah, all together, I would say from start to finish, so 88 to like 94, I would say probably a total of 12 guys, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
So did John wrestle also? Because when we met him, I think he was just exclusively your manager,
right? Yeah, he would put on a mask and just do jobs. He wasn't out there to, like me and the other guys. He was just putting everybody over under a mask.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
What was the name of your league there in Troy?
It was of the league.
Yeah.
You mean?
Yeah.
It was WIW, World Incorporated Wrestling.
Huh.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's an interesting name.
Yeah.
That is. So how long did you guys do that, do you think?
We did that he got involved in it in 89 because he and I we knew each other for 87 and 88, but he and I didn't start hanging out till 1989, the spring of 1989. And then we were about to graduate middle school.
Okay.
And of course we were going into that hot summer of 1989 with Flair and Funk, and we were just going crazy.
Right.
And Sting and Muda, and so we were doing that. He got involved in that really with me in 89, but I was doing it a little before when he came around.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. So I got a surprise for you. Right now. Here's a little blast from the past. I don't know how well you're going to be able to hear this, but I'll crank it up as high as I can. Here's an exclusive to Wrestling Tonight. You are not going to hear this anywhere else. If I can get it to play, hold on one second. And you probably never heard this.
Something new's coming to the NWA, and it's not pretty, especially for you, Bob the Bullet Downing. See, it goes something like this. When you mess with the best, you get chopped in the chest. And I'm going to tell you something. We ruled our domain in Troy, Michigan. For over 4 years, we ruled this domain. And I'm going to tell you something. We're coming here with the challengers that are lining up. And we will have to tell you, we do like the challengers, but where's our title shot? Doesn't this mean anything in here? This is the real world champion. Where's our title shot? That's all we want to know. That's all we're asking. Title champ. Pull it back. What you saw in that ring just a few minutes ago was just a piece of what's going to happen to you in your sorry butt.
June 14th.
Anyway,
That was June 14th, 1992.
there is a promo from the great Morocco
Yeah.
and Steve Nixon right there. I will send you the video later.
Thank you.
I don't know how well you could hear that, but okay. There's surprise number 1. Here is surprise number 2, and this is not we are not setting out to do a This Is Your Life type show, but we got one of your old friends joining us right now.
Wrestling Tonight, they just keep giving surprises over and over again.
Steve Fisher.
And it is none other than the sadistic one, Steve Fisher.
There he is. There he is. The name on there gave it away. How you doing?
Sorry for ruining the suspense.
No problem. How
What's
you
up,
doing,
Steve?
bud? Good. Real good. Real good. Long time no see.
Yeah, 20-something years probably.
Yeah, about that. Yeah. Yeah. God, it's amazing how time flies. Like, what was that? Like 25? Oh, gosh, more than that.
So, I wanted to go down memory lane a little bit, check some facts, because I think it would have been 92 we met at a Coach Kurt independent TV taping, right?
Right. That was my first independent show, was that at Continental Cable Studios in Madison Heights. Was that?
Yeah, right near Oakland Mall on or off of John R., right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And because I remember that show, Joe Bruce, what was his name? He wrestled on that show.
Well,
Yeah, he was.
Wasn't he Corporal Daniels? Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah. And then fast forward.
Oops, hold up. Sorry, guys. Steve
Yeah.
Fisher. Steve Fisher.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought you cut out there. I thought your audio cut out.
Okay.
Just
No,
check.
I can. Yeah, I was heard some echo or something.
Yeah, that was me messing with my phone. Sorry.
Got it.
Okay, I think we're back on track. So so you guys met at that show. Joe Bruce was on the show. And then when did you guys decide were you Steve Fisher, were you already doing the MWF at the time?
Yeah, so this is the next thing I wanted to. So I'm pretty sure we were done. We had folded up at that point because I always remember it was end of our sophomore year, because I think Steve, I graduated in '93. I think you graduated a year ahead of us, right? And I wanted to get to some.
I was 93.
Oh, you were 93?
I was 93. Yeah, I guess we were the same age.
So were you going to? We'll come to the wrestling school, to Al Snow's school. But so because the last time we wrestled would have been in our backyard was '91. And then, but you guys were doing it. And I think one time, Steve, I came to your basement and wrestled in Troy at your house.
You
right?
came twice.
Okay.
I remember you did 2 shows for us. Camera shows were our pay-per-views. Right? So, because it was a treat back then to have a video camera. You know, now people take it for granted, but back then it was
no kidding.
a difficult thing.
Right.
So you did 2 shows for us. And I think you had some more matches than that, but you did 2 generally shows for us, and I think we tag teamed on one show. So
Okay.
we won the tag team titles using a chain. I remember that. That was a lot
Awesome.
of fun.
Was there any blood from that?
What's that?
Was there any blood from the chain?
No. But it knocked the other guy out, and we ended up winning the tag team titles.
Nice.
So were these all inside in your basement, not outside? Okay.
Yeah, it was at two different houses.
Okay.
The first one I remember we did the. Remember you did the slam of the door on my buddy's knee?
No, I do not. See, this is why I wanted to talk. No, I don't.
Yeah, and then you drove him to the hospital. Yeah.
No, so, and this is one other question I wanted to ask. Based on your description, were any of these on pay-per-view? And if so, do you have any of the video? Because I would love to see that.
You know what, Steve? I have them somewhere. I'm trying to think if I even have them or they're back in Detroit and somebody else has them. They exist. I know they exist. I just don't have immediate access to them.
All right.
But I do have them somewhere.
Okay. If you ever, it's not top priority, but if you ever run across them.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Because, man, I don't remember that, driving the door in anybody's knee or anything.
Yeah, it was a takeoff on the Sting angle they did with Rude at the Clash of the Champions, but this time we just did the knee thing where the one other guy slams the car door on his knee and you're in the passenger seat, you're like, and then you hop in the Cutlass, you hop in the front seat and the driver's side of the Cutlass and just zoom to the hospital. Oh yeah, we got that on tape.
Because one of the things I did remember, was it your mom? Were we at your house? I remember one of your moms getting pizza for us. I don't remember the wrestling, but I remember getting pizza.
Jesus, they fed you there?
Yeah. Okay. And then, so this would have been your senior year in high school. That's when you started going to Al Snow's school? Okay.
Yeah, I met Al at that show at the Continental Cable Studios in Madison Heights. That's where I met Al. And then that was on a Tuesday, I believe. And I believe that Saturday we all drove down together for the Lima Civic Center show, which unfortunately they never did again during my tenure. But we saw that great match with Sabu and Dango. You remember that one?
That's right. Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
Sabu and who?
A guy by the name of Dango. He, as soon as I broke into the industry, he basically, I think he moved to Florida and he left. But if you can find that match, it was just like the first time I ever saw such aerial, work.
Okay. All right. We'll get into more of the training too, but just another little piece of trivia. Both of you guys worked on our backyard wrestling at the MWA. You guys both worked on our very last show that we did too, and it just seemed like everybody was kind of at a crossroads, trying to figure out what they were going to do, if we were going to pursue it or not. ICP, they were not on that card who would go on to become ICP, but they had wrestled with us previously. They kind of came to Brace's house and we're like, okay, we're done. We're going to focus on music. And then, I was kind of looking forward, to like kind of a new thing, bring in some new people, but it just wasn't to be. Everybody kind of went their separate ways. But
that was a bad career move for them, right? That didn't work out for them.
Oh no, not at all.
It worked out horribly.
Yeah, and so they still ended up in wrestling in a roundabout way.
Yeah, right.
But, they did tell us at the time that was their last wrestling match was with us there.
With us. But so Steve Fisher, I think I might have mentioned this on one of the previous shows, but my parents did offer to pay for me to go to Al Snow School, and I didn't do it because, it was just if I didn't make it, I would have felt bad for them paying the money, so I didn't. Steve Fisher, you considered going at one point as well, didn't you?
Yeah, I've got on my mom's case, and I want to talk to you, Steve, more about this. But I remember being down there and getting excited, and I remember Al Snow saying you can run the ropes, but you can't jump off the ropes. I think he was trying to give us a taste, but not. And I came back, I said, Mom, I got to go to wrestling school, and she said, I tell you what, if you get your bachelor's degree, I'll pay for wrestling school. And I was like, dang, I don't have money for wrestling school. So I guess I'll get my bachelor's degree and then I'll go. And the dream died. She tricked me.
Yeah.
my parents were too thrilled about it, you know, because I have like Greek parents, and that was the last thing they wanted to hear. So yeah, but I did it anyway.
So out of everybody that we were kind of involved with, I believe you and John went with you, correct?
Right.
Okay.
He and I did it together. We, like I said, we first met Al at that independent show in Madison Heights. I talked to him about the school. So that was St. Patrick's Day, 1992. And I started for the school July 5th, 1992. I still remember the dates.
Okay.
Oh, okay. All right. So how was that training? I mean, later on, everybody kind of got to see Al Snow training people on Tough Enough, but was it pretty much the same or?
You know what? I'm not the right person to ask because I didn't watch Tough Enough. I can tell you this. It was an experience I'll never forget. I knew I was a stupid 17-year-old kid, but I knew that I struck gold with Al.
Right.
And if anybody that has a chance to get trained by Al Snow, you thank your lucky stars. You've struck gold, because I knew how great he was then, and then he just excelled so high after that. I was sorry that he was making such a name for himself because he was no longer at the school very much.
Oh, really?
Well,
that was selfish on my part. But
so what? I'm sorry. What year was this?
That 1992.
92. Okay.
I was going into my my senior year in high school.
Oh, so you weren't even a senior yet, and you were still going to the school. You were going to the school before that. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, who were some of the other guys that were training you when Al Snow wasn't there?
It was just me. Well, it was just me and John. There was Dan Severin, I think, had already started coming down. He had another guy named Johnny Baum who had finished his training and didn't work very much. In fact, I was supposed to work him. I was supposed to work him on my very first show, which was like 6 months later.
Okay. So I just wrote down like a couple of things here where where we ran into you over the years. So I think that we knew that you had gone to the school maybe, but I think I have it written down as 1994, but I could be wrong. We ran into you at was it Midwest Territorial Wrestling?
Could have been.
The main event was the Heavenly Bodies against the Rock and Roll Express, and the Rock and Roll Express won the titles. Steve Fisher, you were there.
Oh, that was in Port Huron.
In the crowd. Yeah, I was in Port Huron at the McMorran.
You told me about that show, and I didn't remember. I thought you were lying, and I found the ticket stub recently.
Nice.
So, yes, because I was living in Kalamazoo, I thought, why would I go Kalamazoo to Port Huron? But I had the ticket stub.
Yeah, so we had talked to you before the show. I think you and another guy, they were calling the Lumberjack or something, were working security. But so is that when is that when Al Snow kind of got picked up to go to Smoky Mountain? Because I know right around the same time, Johnny Canine or Bruiser Bedlam, who worked that show too, he showed up in Smoky Mountain right after as well.
Yeah, he did go. Al did go to Smoky Mountain in '94.
Okay.
And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he went to Japan briefly before then. But then once he went to Smoky Mountain, then his availability became less and less because he was getting noticed and he was working so much. You know, when I broke in '92, believe it or not, I don't know if Steve remembers this, there was not a lot of independent wrestling shows going on.
Yeah.
I started training in July, and I didn't have my first match until December because there was just nothing going on. There were no other independent shows going on. It was just
I remember like Coach Kurt had like 2 or 3 during that time,
right.
Something like that. Yeah.
Right.
Hell, we had more MWA matches those years than than the indies.
Yeah.
So, I guess it would be around the same time. I have it in here somewhere, but I remember, I think I was up at, I don't know, either Michigan State or Central with my buddies that were going to college. And I turn on wrestling Saturday morning, and I see you with a tag team partner against the Head Shrinkers.
Head Shrinkers, yes.
So-
That was Al had he knew Mike Shaw,
Bastion
Bastion
Booger, and
and Norman.
yeah.
And they said he needed some guys to do the taping in Grand Rapids. And guys, I'll tell you this, I did not want to do it. I
Really?
did not want to do it at all.
How come?
I think, I was just in the business now a year. I had only been actually on shows for like 6 months, and I thought, what am I going to do? And I go there, and Al had just had another student start recently, like a couple months before, named Anthony Mazzara, who's from Brooklyn, New York.
Okay.
And they teamed he and I together against the Head Shrinkers, and we just basically got our asses kicked. It was brutal.
Well, I'll tell you what, I popped huge when I saw you on there.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I remember thinking that you looked good, and I don't think I had seen you wrestle at that point, besides, the backyard stuff.
Right.
So I don't think that I had actually seen you work a match till years later at an IWO show, the one that Mr. Big used to promote.
Right.
I think it was in Milford. I want to say it was at Milford
it
High
was.
School, and you wrestled a guy in a mask. I've been trying to find the guy's name. I think it was Isha or something like that. But I could be totally off, but for some reason that's in my head. But you guys, in everyone's opinion that was sitting around me, stole the show on that one, definitely.
I wish I could remember it. But I remember working for Mr. Big. I remember him calling me, asking me if I wanted to work, and then that also got me some unwanted heat with Malcolm Monroe, which I didn't realize at the time by saying yes, but apparently it did.
Okay.
But I don't recall that particular opponent.
Okay.
Hey, question for you: How many years did it take before you got comfortable in the ring? Because you said, "Well, I kind of didn't want to, go on the
That's a good
WWF
question.
show." But how long did that take you? Because a lot of people, it's a number of years, but it just kind of varies.
Yeah. To be honest with you, while I started my first match was in December of 92, I really can't say I felt comfortable until 95, 96.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it takes
It
a
took
while,
a
doesn't
while.
it? Yeah,
It took a while before I was more confident in my ability. I was always my worst critic, and people will tell you I was.
yeah.
But yeah, it was the sense of where I felt comfortable was probably around that time, 95, 96.
Well, after your initial training and you get a few matches underneath you, who were the guys that were like your, you call them like a mentor, somebody that just helped you along on the road or at different events?
Well, I already mentioned Al, of course.
Sure.
He was really the first big brother I ever had. I'm an only kid.
Yeah.
So, that he was such a mentor and kind of like a big brother to me. The other one would have to be, no question, Irish Mickey Doyle.
Nice.
He just was a fountain of knowledge
Mhm.
that I just cherished so much. Denny Cass. Oh my God.
Nice.
Denny and I worked so many times together, and he was just another guy that I used to watch him on WWA, and just,
Yeah.
when I met him, I was like, oh, it's Denny Cass.
Didn't he wind up being private Denny Cass at one
What's
point?
that?
Didn't he wind up being private Denny Cass at one point? Or I must be thinking of somebody else.
No, I don't think so. He did him and Al did the Fabulous Kangaroo gimmick
Yeah.
Okay.
for, I want to say, 1.5 to 2 years. It may have been probably about 1.5 years, I think, is the longest it was. And Al eventually went off on his own, and Denny just was kind of back in singles.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they worked as a tag team on that show that I mentioned earlier in Port Huron, and I believe that was also Mickey Doyle's retirement match on that show. if I recall correctly. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure they announced it as his.
Irish Mickey Doyle, the Pro Wrestling Illustrated Rookie of the Year in 1972.
Yeah. Can you believe it? I mean, the guy was
Yeah.
just a wealth of knowledge.
Hey, Steve, sorry to interrupt, guys. What about Machine Gun Mike Kelly?
Yeah, Machine Gun. He was Al Snow's partner at the time he broke in. He and Al were the Wild Bunch.
Wild Bunch, yeah.
And he was also kind of a little bit of a mentor as well. He was the one. He basically gave me my first gimmick. I had the long hair. I had a what do you call mullet at the time?
Oh, we all did.
You had a nice, you had a pretty sweet mullet.
Yeah. And then I ended up getting the leather jacket and the crazy looking singlet, and it was heavy metal Steve Nixon. That was the first gimmick I was, and that didn't last long because I hated it. Absolutely.
Okay.
But that was Mike's idea. The original idea we were thinking of at the time when I was training is there was ideas and concepts of making me the Godzilla Kid, which would have required me to get a giant, like a I don't know, like how Jushin Thunder Liger has his outfit, but one that more resembles Godzilla.
Okay.
And the concept was really good, and the idea would have been great. I think it would have been gangbusters in Japan.
Yeah.
I just don't think I legally could have done it without getting sued. But yeah, we were floating that idea for a long time, and it was kind of a fantasy gimmick.
Okay. Are you familiar with that would have been a little bit ahead of its time. I mean, you mentioned Jushin Liger, but are you familiar with Kaiju Big Battle? Also, it would be kind of along the lines with that, but
right.
But when they started out, they were just jumping around the ring. But Brace mentioned Irish Mickey Doyle getting the Rookie of the Year in Pro Wrestling Illustrated. You were in the PWI 500 in 1995 at number 476. Now, I mean, when we were younger, PWI was huge. Right. Was that a big moment for you, or was it just what it was?
It was what it was. I think somebody submitted my name. I can't remember who did.
Okay.
It was what it was.
Okay. Also, just one other appearance that sticks out in my mind. Again, I'm just watching wrestling. I'm watching ECW, old school ECW, and the show was from Detroit, and you come out as the president of the Michigan Athletic Commission?
Yeah, I remember
Mr. Nixon.
I remember coming out as a referee. I think I had referee. It was at Michigan State Fair, and I think I had a referee shirt on. And that was the night that I got Sabu. I was trying to hold back Sabu, and he punched me, and I took a bump, and then he put me through a table.
Yeah, I remember that. But for some reason, I thought you were I thought that you were like the head of the Michigan Wrestling Commission or something like that.
Unless they said that on TV.
I think they did.
I don't remember.
Okay. All right. Yeah, just wondering. So you guys, speaking of Sabu, you guys kind of befriended him right off the bat, correct?
Yeah. John and he became close. He went off really with Sabu. I pretty much stayed with Body Slammers.
Okay.
And I got to meet Sabu and work with Sabu and got to know him. Another mentor, just, teaching me stuff.
Okay.
So I had a good class of mentors. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. That list is pretty impressive.
Yeah, it really is.
Sabu, he was on most of those Detroit shows and most of those Ohio shows that Al would put on, right? Okay, yeah. That's all I remember.
Yeah, I know. I remember Al, or pardon me. I remember Sabu and Pee Wee were putting on NWA independent shows with the NWA rather logo, and they were competing against Gary Warrenchuk's MTW. So,
Okay.
and also Malcolm Monroe's Midwest Championship Wrestling. So it was like those three, I think, were going on at the same time. It was pretty crazy.
Were those shows in Lincoln Park? I
Yes.
kept seeing your name associated with those.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
I
cool.
did a lot of shows in Lincoln Park.
Hey, Fisher, that's a cool background you got there.
I've used this one at work, so for real. Yeah.
Nice.
See why? Yeah.
Hey, Nixon, who do you think?
Yeah.
Who do you think you had the best matches with? Who's the one that you worked with the best?
Oh, I think the ones that people mostly remember is the ones with Reckless Youth. I worked with him quite a few times. A couple of them were pretty memorable. I worked with 8-Pac. I worked with him, I think, one time in a singles match, I think. I worked with Jimmy V a lot. People remember those.
Yeah, he was pretty good too.
Yeah. Danny Daniels and I were a tag team and for a while, and we worked Chris Sabin and Loverboy Steve. That was a lot of fun. But I think the opponent I think people mostly remember me with is Reckless Youth.
Nice.
Okay. Now, do you remember your first actual title win?
Yes.
What was that?
Well, as a matter of fact, like I said earlier, I was originally supposed to wrestle Johnny Bomb in my first match, which was my first show where I was wrestling was at the Lima Correctional Facility in Lima, Ohio, which was a maximum security prison.
Nice. Good old pro wrestling story.
For real?
Huh?
They got in the prison to wrestle.
Yeah, they had a show. It was a sold show. The prison paid.
Okay.
Yeah, they used to do that a lot.
Yeah. So I was scheduled to work Johnny Bomb, who I referenced earlier, and he did not show up. So they put me with Sean Casey. I believe you probably know who Sean Casey is.
Yeah.
Yes.
They tag teamed me and him versus the Outlaws, Woody Lee and Bobby Lee, who Dave St. Ange. Woody unfortunately passed away. And they were the ICW tag team champions. So in my very first match, I won my first championship,
Really?
which was the ICW tag team championship in my very first match, which is, I mean, not too many people can say that.
Right.
Hey guys, I gotta drop off. So
Okay, take care, Steve. I'll
Steve,
look
great.
into that, okay?
What's that?
I'll look into that. I'll look for those tapes, okay?
That'd be awesome. Oh, that'd be awesome. Tell John I said hi, please.
If I see him, I will. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
take it easy,
Take care,
Steve.
guys.
All right.
Great
See you, Steve.
catching up.
Take it easy.
Bye-bye.
Do you still do you still keep in contact with John then?
I haven't talked to him for years. I don't know. I know he doesn't live in Michigan anymore. I want to say he moved out west, but I'm not 100% sure.
Okay. Now, when I put this event out on Facebook, there was quite a bit of a buzz. People seemed really excited. Some other wrestlers from around here seemed really excited that you were going to be on the show, and they mentioned that that they felt that you really kind of laid the groundwork for like the smaller guys in around this territory. So that was probably right around the time that WCW started focusing on the cruiserweights. And did you feel like you kind of had to carry the the smaller weight sort of banner around?
Yes, because WCW introduced the cruiserweight division to the United States, and which brought in all this incredible talent all over the world. And I knew how popular it was. So when I had to wrestle, it was like, I felt like, well, I have to do the same kind of stuff that they see on TV, or it was going to be a letdown.
Huh.
Okay.
So, and that's what I did. Because when I first started, you know, when wrestling was still for the big guys, Al said that you're going to have to get off your feet. You're going to have to fly.
Okay.
And so I said, okay. I didn't feel comfortable about it back then when he first told me that, but I thought I was going to be Ric Flair. So
hey, you were close.
Well, couldn't you have been a Dean Malenko though?
I stole so much from Dean.
Okay.
I did when he was really in his prime on Nitro.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I was such a mark for him. I wish I could have been as smooth as him, but I stole some of his stuff.
Okay.
Hey, it's called borrowing.
Yeah, borrowing. Someone said borrowing. He was just just a talent like nothing I'd ever seen before. So I borrowed from him quite a bit.
Okay. All right. So I was going to try to set it up. When I first announced this, I got a text immediately from Levi Blue, who was actually our very first guest on here. And so we were going to try to arrange it that he could pop into, but I don't think he was able to do it. But he wanted me to say thank you for laying the groundwork for guys like him, smaller guys that, he was a big fan of yours. And
yeah, I've always liked Levi. He was just a nice person.
Yeah, he still is.
Oh, he's a great guy.
He's been on here a couple times.
I haven't seen him in a long time,
yeah.
But I thank him very much for the nice compliment.
Yeah, that was nice of him. That's cool.
So, how many different promotions would you say you worked for?
Oh my God. I've forgotten. I think they ran out of alphabet. I gotta say at least, I don't know, I might be low, maybe 10.
Okay.
But I mean, over the span of 15 years or whatever it was.
How many matches do you think you had?
I would guesstimate between 3 and 4.
Nice.
3 and 400. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good career there.
Yeah, it was I was happy with it. The last couple of years I wasn't as active, and had my last match, and I believe it was in August of 2006, and walked away. I don't regret walking away. I don't.
What led you to that decision? I was going to ask you that, but
just at that point in my life, where was I going to go with it? I was pretty much done what I knew I was going to do, and I wasn't going to go up anymore. And I thought, now's the time to step aside. My last really good run, I think, was in 2002 with Danny Daniels.
Okay.
And after that, it was kind of just, I was more or less kind of helping with booking, and that's really where I kind of transitioned into.
So what promotion did you book for?
I worked. I assisted A.T. Huck.
Okay.
With IWF.
Yeah, another good referee.
Okay. All right. Has anybody tried to bring you out of retirement?
Yeah, some people have asked me to come back, and I said no.
Okay.
Not enough money, huh?
Yeah, the money was over. It's just, it was just my time has passed. The last time I got into a ring was probably about 4 or 5 years ago, and I got into a ring, and it still felt good. I still did the walk. I still could pivot. I still, I felt it coming back to me.
Okay.
But that was the extent of it.
Okay. Now, if let's say that you're still in your prime and you can wrestle anybody that you want in their prime, who would you choose? Do you think any wrestler at all?
Um, I've always, I would have loved to have wrestled Chris Sabin on a higher level. I was so happy when he got his big break and did so well for himself. I remember him when he just started, and he and I we had some tag matches. Originally the plan was, what we really wanted was Danny Daniels and me against Chris Sabin and Truth Martini.
Okay.
In the IWF, but Truth was going through some stuff at that time, and he wasn't ready to come back. So unfortunately, that didn't come to be. But that was Chris Sabin one-on-one. I think would have been another one. I would have loved to do this. Was probably have one more match with Al Snow.
Okay.
Just to kind of see what's there.
Yeah.
How many matches do you think you had with Al?
Oh, I would say, well, are you talking workout matches or just actual show matches?
Show matches.
I would say about 4, 5.
Okay.
Not very many.
Okay.
Not very many.
That's still pretty good though.
Yeah. I mean, I was really green.
Okay.
For a lot of those, so he carried me.
All right.
I would have liked to have done it with more of the experience under my belt and then do it.
Okay.
Just to kind of see, what we could make of it.
Okay.
Were you one of those guys that got color?
I would have loved to have been a master at that. I was always so jealous of those guys who made it look so darn easy.
Yeah, and they did it so quick,
Yeah, I mean, they were, and I was just, they made it look so easy and so good. I think my favorite one that I did was against the Reckless Youth. We had a no holds barred match. And I remember legitimately my lip was torn. I was a bloody mess. And that was so much fun. And the intensity I had for one time, I actually had a family friend in the audience. And, it made what I like to call the perfect night. All right. And I hope every young professional wrestler getting into the industry has these. Even if that's the end of their career afterwards, if that's the most they do, it's just a perfect night where you have the match of the night, the audience is exploding, they're buzzing about you after the show. It's like, I've had a few of those, and I gotta say, there's nothing better than those perfect nights.
Heck yeah, it's like a drug.
It's just a natural high.
Yeah.
But yes, to answer your question, yes, I did like to do that. I just wish I would have been better at it, to the point where it just would have been even look cooler than what it did.
Yeah. Well, good. You're a good man in my book.
So
thank you.
going back to Levi Blue, that's one of the things that I wanted to mention. That's what he described you as, is one of the original heat seekers, or at least one of the best heat seekers around. Did you work heel exclusively, or no?
I did in the beginning. I didn't. Okay. I mean, because I was a little guy, so the stereotype was I had to be the baby face.
Right.
At the end, I would say the second half of my career, I was always a heel. Okay. And I had the most fun as a heel. Going back, oh God, I'm bringing back memories I haven't thought about in years. the Boogie Nights gimmick that I did with Chad Casey. I don't know if you guys recall that one. It was with Malcolm and Rose Company, where you remember the movie Boogie Nights.
Oh yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. So we decided to put on this tag team called the Boogie Nights, where I was Steve Libido Nixon and Chad was Chad Diggler Casey. And
I remember hearing about that.
Yeah, I do too.
we had Jeffrey Scott as our manager, and the thing was it was getting so fun. And I want to say that's when we wrestled Edge and Christian, I think, were the Boogie Nights, I think, during that time.
Yeah, because they were trained through Malcolm too, weren't they?
Who, Edge and Christian?
Yeah.
No, I thought they trained in Canada.
They
okay.
trained with Sweet Daddy Siki in Canada.
Okay.
But they made a name for themselves in the Detroit area before they went to the WWE. Yeah.
So that was a heel gimmick as well?
That
the
was
Boogie?
a heel.
Oh,
the
okay.
Boogie Nights. Yep,
Okay.
that was a heel gimmick. The Raw talent Steve Nixon was a heel gimmick. It was just when I was with Danny Daniels, I was a heel. The only time my first feud into the business, I believe, was with Los Rudos. And so I was the babyface. But after that, I became Raw talent Steve Nixon, and I was more of the heat seeker.
Okay.
And I had so much more fun with that than I did as a babyface. It's so much more fun. And I love telling people what I think of them in real life without, that you really can't do in real life.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's just when I just, especially working the shows like the Body Slammers gym with Wayne Kreiderman, and I was a heel on those shows, that he was the guy that took over for Al when Al was on the road. That was just a lot of fun. It was just a lot of fun. I loved wrestling as a heel.
Did you ever get on a TV show regularly, or was it all just, non-televised independents for the most part?
You know what? I think one of the biggest regrets I have was the lack of an established television show for the Midwest.
Yeah, there was nothing.
That featured all the top talent, maybe bring guys from the East Coast on over. Mm-hmm. I think that would have just been terrific. And sadly, nobody really accomplished that. I mean, you had the cable access shows, but everybody had a cable access show.
Yeah,
right.
But if we would have had a major established television show, I just think that would have just produced so much great talent and would have been so much fun. And I think it would have put a lot of people on a higher level.
Yeah, because there was a lot of talent around here, like at that time, but there was just, you couldn't watch them, unless you went live. Right.
And unless you bought their tapes later DVDs,
Yeah. I meant to ask you this earlier. Sorry for jumping around here, but how many titles would you say that you actually won throughout the years? I do have a printout here, but I don't know if it's accurate.
Oh boy. I
don't mean to throw you a heart ball, but
yeah. Oh, I want to say maybe 5, 6.
Okay.
Something like that.
Okay.
Maybe it was more, maybe it was less. I don't know.
All right.
The problem.
This says, like, as far as this is off cagematch.com.
Okay.
The Internet Wrestling Database, and it says, yeah, that's about right. It says that you held about 5 different cruiserweight, light heavyweight, or junior heavyweight titles. But you mentioned a tag team
titles.
Okay, that one's not on here.
Yeah, I held a couple of tag team titles. I don't know. It was like, I want to say it was like 3 different cruiserweight titles.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have any of your matches like in your own collection? Because you mentioned, people made like DVDs or VHS tapes before. Do you have a stash of your own?
I do. I don't have very many. I have the ones that I was able to get. I think I have the most prominent matches that I have.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
Pretty sure.
Throw those out on YouTube, because I can only find 2 of them.
Yeah, I could only find two of you.
And I checked like Daily Motion and all around. I couldn't.
Yeah, the only match I know on YouTube was me and Bobby Clancy.
Yeah, that's out there. And Man, I don't remember who the other one was. Do you?
Yeah, it was against Johnny V. There was like,
Jimmy V?
yeah, Jimmy V. There was like, they showed like 3 or 4 minutes of it.
Oh yeah, the clip.
Yeah.
That too. That was fun. That was a fun night.
Yeah, he was a good guy too. We interviewed him
Yeah.
on the radio show we used to do.
Yeah, years ago. Was there a specific promotion that you preferred working for, or did it not really matter?
Well, I mean, I'd lie and say it didn't matter. It did. It just
Okay.
depends. It just depends on what you were doing. I mean, I've been on promotions where, they didn't do much with me, but I still had a great time doing it.
Yeah.
And then there were the promotions where I was focused higher on the card and it just wasn't as fun. So, yeah.
Okay. Did you have any offers from? I mean, you were kind of. I mentioned it earlier, so you were kind of like right in the middle of the beginning of the Monday Night Wars. ECW was getting hot. Did you have any like offers from any of those to sign like a long-term deal or?
No,
Okay.
no, it never reached that level.
Okay.
I was primarily in the Michigan, Ohio, Canada,
Yeah.
circuit.
Yeah.
I never went
Okay.
any more than that. The farthest west I think I ever wrestled was St. Louis.
Okay. All right. Do you still follow the current product at all?
Well, yeah,
We know how you feel.
it's just getting more and more difficult. By nature, I'm a very traditional conservative type person. And this isn't what you see today is not the industry I fell in love with 30 plus years ago.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
Amen.
We totally agree with you.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people feel that way. And I just think the nonsense of this cinematic matches and just, it's like, how much more can the industry keep telling people, hey, we're not real.
Yeah.
We're just laugh at it, wink, wink, nod, nod. And I think it just, the industry as a whole just damaged itself.
It's cosplay.
I think, AEW had a chance to fill a vacuum for a serious product when in fact they're just putting out sports entertainment, the same, they're just copying off New York.
Yeah.
So,
I was really looking forward to them, and it took me a couple weeks, and I was just like, come on.
to be honest with you, I never seen one episode because I
Okay.
already knew what they were going to do. I mean, and I don't mean to speak ill of millennials, but when you have millennials running a wrestling, I kind of have an idea how it's going to go.
Yeah.
Right.
The one thing I do still love is the women. I don't care who you are. The Sasha Bailey match 5 years ago in Brooklyn changed the landscape.
Yeah.
That was, I mean, very few times have I been on the edge of my seat.
Mhm.
I was on the edge of my seat. My girlfriend at the time was on the edge of her seat. We were just going crazy.
Was that in NXT?
That was at Takeover in Brooklyn in
Okay.
2015, SummerSlam weekend.
All right.
And it was just a work of art. Everything went right. And I still follow the women. Over the years, I actually became a very big Shimmer fan. And I have just countless volumes. And I've actually flew to Chicago a couple times to go check out their shows.
Oh, okay.
So women are really, only because, they look nice, but because it's fresh, because, what did we grow up with? We grew up with the really bad 2-minute women's matches. And now they have this new aspect of the women's division that is taken seriously, and they're working hard, and you can just see the work rate is just so good.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say too. Because we obviously, when we were watching, like you said, it was a different time. A lot of that was considered popcorn match time or bathroom break time. Besides maybe the Jumping Bomb Angels, I remember when they were in there, and they brought
were great.
Peggy Lee Leather
different
and
element to it.
Selena Majors.
Well, yeah, and then you had, we were fans of WoW. I don't think most people were, but you know, they had some decent workers in there too, and they put on some decent stuff. I mean, they you know, even though they had the goofy gimmicks, but yeah, I agree. I mean, probably it's been a while since I've been to a live show, but it seems like every time we go, we agree that the women steal the show now.
Yeah,
It's just come so far from like when we were watching it as kids.
yeah, like miles so far. I watched WoW. I watched WoW religiously. I loved most of the things they did. I didn't like the cinematic stuff they do. That tends to be a thing now. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I grew up, of course, with the Jumping Bomb Angels. That was the first time I ever saw Japanese women wrestling, and it was like just like the rest of North America.
Right.
Yeah, well, I think
it was just mind-boggling how great they were, and they were in there with those two great ring generals, Alani Kai and Judy Miller.
Well, it's probably why the ratings are dropping, because like the women are having better matches than the men, you know?
Yeah.
Since they've been featuring the women, the ratings have been, tanking.
Yeah. I mean, and they can't just really blame the pandemic over it.
Yeah, because it was bad before,
It was really bad before. Yeah. And I mean, I think they would probably just say it's the pandemic's fault, but no, it was just I think the basis of pro wrestling has changed so much, not for the better.
Right.
And, instead of it being professional wrestling, it's sports entertainment. And I just don't think, I mean, if you can give people a little bit of pro wrestling, that might help. But,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like any pretense of it being real has been thrown out the window 20 years ago.
Yeah, it really is, and that's a shame, because I think the industry did it to itself. You just can't keep reiterating the fact that this isn't real, and that's what they keep doing.
Yeah.
And it's people have lost interest.
Now, have you watched enough of it to maybe have a pick for a male wrestler that you think is going to break out and possibly become the huge star in the future? Somebody that's probably more on the indies or maybe Japan.
Well, I don't pay attention to the indies very much.
Okay.
Just because of the access, it's easier to just tune in Monday nights,
right.
Fridays, and go on YouTube. But I don't see anybody. I don't foresee anybody. Doesn't mean they're not out there. It's just, no, I don't see a bigger than life person that's going to come along. They might be out there, but this industry could use quite a few bigger than life personalities, because it needs it.
I mean, it just seems like the way that they do things now, and Brace coined the phrase pop wrestling quite a few years ago. It just seems like that's what it is now. It seems like they want everything to be similar. So I don't even know if anybody would have the opportunity to break out like they would have back in the older days.
Right.
I mean, everything's so scripted. The matches are so similar.
Right. That's what I was going to say. I think they've taken the heart and soul, the emotion out of the industry. And I think the industry has become more bankrupt because of it.
Yeah.
There's no passion anymore. I mean, there's passion with the competitors, sure, because that's why they got in it. But with the audience, there's no emotion. There's no emotional connection anymore.
Yeah, it's turning into the Japanese audience, really. I mean, that's where it's headed.
It's just gotten to the point where, it's like, well, if I miss Raw for 6 months, what am I going to miss? Nothing.
Right. Yeah,
exactly.
If you miss a pay-per-view, I mean, they made it to the point where there's not much difference between Raw and a pay-per-view, which, made the pay-per-views. The only ones that mean anything is the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania.
Yeah. Yeah. And those are about the only two that I go out of my way to watch. I have the network to watch the old stuff, and then I won't even realize that there's a pay-per-view unless it's those two. the big two.
Yeah, I got the network for the old stuff too, and I'd never watch, like, I'd never even look at their homepage to see what's going on. I don't even watch the pay-per-views. I just watch the old stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's gotten to the point where, the pay-per-views are so meaningless. And
Right.
it's just just another show that just doesn't mean anything. They're changing titles like they change underwear.
Yeah.
It's just, like I said, the presentation is so much different.
I hope it works out for them, but I'm sticking with the Southeastern wrestling and a lot of the older stuff. So
Right.
I forget them.
Do you think anybody out there would be able to present? I mean, it's kind of what Smoky Mountain tried to do in the 90s. Nowadays, do you think that anybody could bring back like the old school style and be successful?
Well, I mean, AEW had that opportunity, and they punted. I mean, they didn't do it, and they went the sports entertainment route. And I think people are hungry for really for professional wrestling again. Look, people want to go to a show, suspend their beliefs, and get into it.
Right.
It's getting harder and harder with nonsense that you see week after week after week. Can they go back to that? At this point, I really don't know. I wish AEW would have given it a shot just to kind of see if it was possible.
Right.
But
Well, where are you going to get the guys to do it? Because I've thought about that over and over, and you would literally have to train people from scratch.
Well, you know what?
Start the whole thing over again,
Yeah, I mean, I thought about that too, because I thinking to myself, well, gee, if I was going to start a company, what would I do? Well, I would probably take maybe 2 years before I'd even have the first match and just travel the world and scout and see who's out there. I mean, go to universities, go to see, just to kind of build. I think people miss the Brodies, the Hansons.
Yes.
They miss the characters that they brought, the toughness, the legit toughness. The only guy to me that means anything today is Brock Lesnar.
Yeah,
That's
really.
because he's legitimate, and because he's not overused week after week.
Right. Yeah, he takes. I mean, I'm a fan too, and it's just crazy, like the heat that he gets from the modern day wrestling fan. They loathe him.
Yeah, they hate him because
for
he's
the
an
reasons
old school
that you
guy.
said.
Right. And I don't think that's fair.
No.
I think, the fact that he's not on TV every week makes him more and more special. And the fact that he can legitimately beat people up,
Right.
And to the point where the normal human being would be scared of him, that's what's lacking, I think, in the industry as a whole.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, big time.
Just to throw this out there, do you got any funny backstage stories that you want to mention? Any like ribs or any road stories or anything like that you experienced?
Any near death experiences or anything?
Yeah, or that too.
I tell you, those were my college years before I actually went away to college. When I actually went away to college, they were nowhere near as fun as road stories and being in wrestling. I mean, do I want to mention the stories? Not really.
All right, that's fine.
Because they might incriminate, I don't want to embarrass anybody, and I would also be the subject of that embarrassment. So no, we'll pass on that question.
Any lasting injuries?
What's that?
Do you have any lasting, like, nagging injuries from all of your years in the ring?
My legs don't work very well. I suffered, I suffered an injury. The worst injury, well, I had two bad ones. I never broke anything, thank goodness. But one injury I had was in 95. I was in a tag team match with Sean Casey against Los Rudos. And the thing was that Sean was going to shoot me off and backdrop me over the top rope onto them. Well, did that. And I the back of my head just hit the concrete. And from what people told me, you could hear the thud, the thud rather.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it was pretty scary. And I remember doing it. I remember going in and finishing the match, but I remember I was just out of it. Another injury that I got that still, I think, really messed me up. I was stupid and I tried doing RVD's guillotine onto the ring apron.
Mm-hmm.
And my tailbone hit the edge of it.
Ooh.
And it was, it was such excruciating. How I didn't break it, I don't know.
That hurts just hearing about it.
Yeah, really.
But I think that did some damage to my legs. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not a doctor. I'm never, but I want to say, yeah. Because my legs just go numb and they fall asleep. And it's painful and excruciating.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I got one last question for you.
Mm-hmm.
If you were, I mean, I asked you before who you worked well with. Was there anybody that you just said, man, that guy's so good? Excluding Al Snow because you worked with him early, but who in the ring did you think, gosh, that guy's like the best that I've been in the ring with?
Oh boy. You're putting me on the spot here.
Yeah, well, give like 2 or 3 of them then, it doesn't just have to be one.
Well, I mean, Chris Sabin was the one. I mean, obviously. I never wrestled Alex. Well, yeah, I did wrestle Alex Shelley. It was in a 4-way, but he and I didn't really hook up that much.
Oh. That's all right. If you can't think of it, then.
Huh? I said Sabin. Yeah, Sabin and Al. Well, you didn't want me to say Al, but
you did mention Jimmy V.
Yeah. Jimmy V.
And it seemed like he was on a pretty good trajectory, and unfortunately, an injury took him out somewhat early. But
yeah, I mean, Jimmy V. Amazing Nate. Oh, good grief! I mean, Nate is just like poetry in motion in that ring. 8-Pac was very good. I still remember the match that we had, the one that people still ask me about sometimes, the one with the ladder in Dearborn. It was just brutal. It was just so brutal. And I had both my probably my top matches that I've had were with ladders in them, but they weren't actually ladder matches. Reckless Youth was one, 8-Pac was the other.
Huh. Well, let me ask you, Levi Blue mentioned a couple guys. American Kickboxer, he said that he saw matches with you guys and he just thought those were like some of the best matches that he had seen at the time. And also Tarek the Great.
Kickboxer is very good. He was very talented. He probably would have even gotten even stronger and better. I don't know why he left the industry. I think he did, right? I think.
I'm not exactly sure, but yeah, he just seemed like he kind of disappeared.
Yeah, he was very smooth. I remember that.
Yeah.
And Tarek, I don't recall working one-on-one. I remember seeing him,
okay,
but I don't recall ever working him.
Okay, I could be wrong, but I thought that he did mention that, but he may not exactly remember either. But
right.
So, is there anything that you would like to say to your fans before we go here?
Just thank you for remembering me. Thank you for supporting me. It was an honor to entertain every single one of you. And maybe I'll see you down the road.
All right, Steve, thank you very much for being on here. We really appreciate it.
Yeah. Do you have any contact information, like, your Facebook, in case anybody wants to get a hold of you, or are you still open to that?
You can find me on Steven Nixon on Facebook. There's a picture of an Apache. It's nothing fancy. And yeah, so you can find me on Facebook at Steve Nixon.
Okay. We really appreciate it, like I said, and take care out there. How's the weather out there, by the way?
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful. Very nice. Yeah. I think we get more sun here than they do in Michigan.
Okay.
Have you done anything in wrestling beside this podcast recently?
I have not.
Huh.
No, this is the only wrestling thing I've done wrestling related thing I've done in God, I don't know how long.
Oh, good. We'll get you back into the sport here.
Oh, thanks.
Just one more question real quick. Is there any type of indie scene out there that you know of?
I want to say there's some company out here called Fully Loaded Wrestling or something. I've not been to their shows. I excuse me if I have the name wrong.
Okay.
There was some independent show that works here. I know Pat Tanaka, I believe, has a school here.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, and I mean, he's another guy, poetry in motion.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No kidding.
All right.
Okay.
Once again, we really appreciate it. Feel free to come on anytime.
Yeah, great job, Steve.
Thank you very much.
And take care.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Mm-hmm. And for everybody else, just keep checking the normal outlets to see when our next Wrestling Tonight will be. Thank you, Brace Beemer.
Yeah.
And,
Great job, Mad Dog.
Thank you. And we will see everybody next time.
Have a good night, everyone.
Captain Carnage, Dr. Tweed, The Mask, Miss Linda and Adrian Street, the Human Bomb Shelter, Jake the Snake. Ask Mad Dog DeCurso if it's real or fake.